Beings of the universe, it is I, your all-knowing, all-seeing, beloved and benevolent master. For all you know, I am transmitting this message directly into your consciousness. Yes, drown yourself in my voice and know that I am the one and the only Tim Trin. Welcome to the Mandatory Topic Podcast. I, the fabulous Tim Trin, am joined by the true hero of the indigenous peoples, the man with a million pesta bounty, the blackjack who talks too much smack.
Ken Davis. Be sure to visit our website, mandatorytopic.com, visit our Facebook page, and subscribe to us on iTunes. It'd also be really nice if you could email us at mandatorytopic@gmail.com. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Any suggestions, comments, or feedback would be very much appreciated. On today's show, we're going to be talking about Golden Boy, which is a 1995 OVA. And yeah, unless you have anything you want to talk about, we can just get right into that.
Right, we can get right into it.
Okay. Golden Boy is a OVA that was released periodically between 1995 and 1996. It was based on the manga named Golden Boy by Tatsuya Egawa. That manga ran in Super Jump from 1992 to 1998. Egawa is actually a pretty interesting guy. He apparently got a degree in applied mathematics, and he taught college-level math for a few years, or for some period of time before he became a mangaka.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I can't remember who it was. Maybe you do. There was some mangaka who was like a doctor. I'm pretty sure it was Tezuka, now that I'm thinking about it.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
That's why he did Blackjack. Blackjack was a doctor. But Egawa has a degree in applied mathematics. He's also directed quite a few live-action porns, apparently. What? Yeah, and I guess that's not terribly surprising when you look at Golden Boy and his other work. But yeah, he's directed porn, and he may even have a porn production company of his own. I didn't look into it quite that much.
Yeah, Japanese porn is pretty bad, but this was good.
He's also directed one or two just regular live-action movies that were based on some of his other mangas. So he's a live-action director in his own right, but he did not direct this OVA. This OVA was directed by Hiroyuki Kitakubo, who is a dude we talked about previously. He directed Black Magic M66, which is probably the reason that we got it into our head to talk about Golden Boy for this episode. Kitakubo has done a lot of stuff, actually. He directed the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure OVAs. He directed a segment of Robot Carnival, and he's done like a tremendous amount of key animation for just a varied amount of things like Akira and FLCL.
Yeah, he's worked on Mobile Suit Gundam and some hentai stuff.
Interesting. So, Golden Boy is this erotic sex comedy, ecchi type show. It's about Kentaro Oe, who's this genius 25-year-old who attended Tokyo University's law school. Tokyo University is like the Harvard of Japan. But he dropped out because he mastered the curriculum in significantly less time than it took him to graduate. And so now he just goes around on his bicycle, traveling the country of Japan while meeting all of these attractive women who get him into these weird situations, and he just has perverted adventures. And that's the story.
Yeah, well, he travels around doing odd jobs to master the trades of these odd jobs. And I guess the beautiful women kind of lead into some of his jobs, but they're not necessarily the thing that he's chasing after.
Yeah, right. He's just chasing after knowledge or something like that. We never actually hear him talk about directly what his goals in life are, but it seems like he just really enjoys learning and studying, as he screams 50,000 times throughout the duration of the 6-episode OVA. But yeah, he's a likable character.
He's got a heart of gold, is what I'll say.
He does. He's ridiculously perverted, though.
Yeah, but man, that's the greatest thing.
His perversion, as you were saying, is like extreme. Like in the first episode, there's a scene where he has utterly disgusted this one lady who's the president of this software company. And she's so disgusted with him that she spits on him, but he just opens his mouth and drinks her spit. And he has like the most happy face on to be being treated this way. And I laughed pretty darn hard. I was like, what kind of low life animal are you?
That was the greatest thing ever, though. Oh my god.
That was a good scene.
He's really perverted, but he's got like a really funny sort of character too. Although, like I said, he's got a heart of gold, and because that's kind of one of the central ideas of the whole entire series is that, from each episode is basically him going to a different job. And he always surprises everyone there. Like, they all think that he's just some idiot pervert, and then he ends up surprising everybody by just being, like, amazingly exceptional.
Even though he comes across as an idiot, but he's actually a genius, I don't buy that. He actually is an idiot. He's like an idiot savant. He clearly can process a lot of information in some very specific ways, but there's no getting around the fact that he's an idiot. You don't get a pass in one area of life just because you're really good at another area, you know?
Yeah. Well, it always kind of struck me as odd when they mentioned that he dropped out of Tokyo U. Like, why? Why, though?
Because he already learned the material. He wasn't going to stand there for like another 2 years when he already knew everything. That's why he's always changing jobs.
If you already know it, though, wouldn't it be possible for him, if he's just a genius, to like get a degree? You actually have to spend the time there? That's stupid.
If you already know everything about all of your classes in college, they still make you sit through it. Law school is just a university.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I hadn't been thinking about that. Fair enough.
I don't know how you could not think about that, but okay.
Whatever. Okay. There's this point. It's in episode 4. In episode 4, he goes and works at the swimming school, and he just kind of tries to get the job of, like, a swimming instructor, even though he's clearly, well, he's not, you don't know it at the point, but he's really bad at swimming. So there's this point where he's, like, doing this test, and he jumps in the water, and he's like, oh, yeah, he's trying really hard. He's trying really hard to swim and do his best, and he's horrible at it. It's obvious. But as soon as he gets to, like, the other side of the pool, he, like, turns, and he's like, so, how good was I?
Oh, that was good. His face got super serious. Yeah. That was another good thing about this, and this is apparently a large selling point of the manga, like the reaction faces it has. He draws like really intense faces, and that's a pretty like standard anime humor type thing, but these faces are above and beyond. They're really good.
Yeah, they're really good. Ah, man, all of his reactions are really good. That's really the central thing of the comedy.
Right. Even, I like the voice acting. The voice actor was able to make him sound really silly.
Yeah. The voice acting was definitely good in the Japanese version. I listened to a little bit of the English, and it sounded really bad in comparison.
Yeah, same. I didn't give it a fair chance, mind you, but from what little I heard, it was pretty darn bad.
Alright, yep.
Okay, well, you knew that I was going to bring this up in some capacity or another, so this should not be surprising, but the show is really problematic, at least on paper. I'll say right up front that I really enjoyed the show. I liked it, so I'm not saying that this in any way, shape, form, or fashion was enough to turn me away or turn me off from the show, but he's always like coming into these towns and he doesn't always like save the girl, but there's a lot of, at the end of every single episode, the woman that he's been interacting with falls in love with him. And there are several situations in which no matter like how competent or how talented or how good at their job the girl is, at the end of the day, he's the one who has to show them the new area in life that they've been missing out on or save them from a dire situation, even though sometimes, or at least in one situation, he was the one who put them in the dire situation. And again, this is not troublesome to me on anything but on paper. It was done well. The characters are treated well, even though a lot of the female characters are being treated in quite an exploitative way. It doesn't really feel exploitative. Like, they're naked a lot of the time unnecessarily. The first female character we see, I think, is wearing like this dress that barely covers her nipples, and she's just jiggling around all over the place. And come on, it's entirely unnecessary. She's the president of this company. And again, this didn't bother me, but we'd be lying if we said that that was necessary or in some way not exploitative. But I think that's to the show's credit that it can do something that ridiculous and that over the top, but still have it feel sincere. And at the end of the episode, it's like kind of this heartwarming moment when she falls in love with him. And I don't know. So I have to mention all of that because, at least on paper, this is an incredibly problematic show, but they barely managed to pull it off in a way that I rather enjoyed.
Yeah, well, they make it endearing. I kind of felt like the type of typical, I guess, feminism problems that are in anime normally would bother me. And I see what you're saying, but I just kind of took all of that as the silliness of the anime. Like, I didn't consider it, I wasn't even really thinking about that because, like, on one hand, I can see how, yeah, it's clearly exploitative that she's, like, in the first episode, you have this CEO of this company, and she's wearing this ridiculous outfit. But then again, it's kind of like, well, I mean, she put it on. Now, on one hand, you gotta say, well, okay, they didn't have to animate her that way. It's such that I could just accept it and not really question it. I'll just put it that way. I don't really know how else to describe it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also kind of having a hard time articulating why I wasn't upset at the show for that. Not to say that I'm the type of person who gets upset about that stuff all that easily, but I would have expected to have at least been like a little bit annoyed, but I wasn't. I just found it hilarious. And maybe that's the real reason. Maybe it's just that the show works so well as a comedy that you really can't be mad at it.
I don't know. I mean, well, yes, the humor is, we will repeat, very good. But the other thing that I think works to its credit in this regard is that, the women that eventually fall in love with him, it's not like, it doesn't feel forced to me. Like, he demonstrates that, even though it's sort of silly, he shows them something, he teaches them something, he shows them that he is exceptional in a way that's not like a male power fantasy so much as it is he's just really awesome, and then they just sort of fall for him of their own accord. So it's not the same as that sort of tired, as sort of the typical route that it would go.
I agree with you mostly. I will say that the little romance bit in the last episode was exactly what the typical thing is. It was the exact generic anime girl just falling in love with him just because he said something nice to her. And there are 5 episodes in this, so there are like 5 girls that fall in love with him, and all of them are pretty good, as we've been saying, except for that last one. I thought that was really terrible.
There are 6 episodes.
Did I say there were 5?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I didn't even think, I would give you that if I thought that the animation girl really actually did fall in love with him, but I thought that her reaction was a lot more toned down. She was similar to the girl who worked at the restaurant, and I actually meant to mention this, but, this is an ecchi anime. It just is. There's a lot of pervy stuff. I mean, that's the deal. That's what it's there for. But sometimes, like in episode 3, you got Keitaro working at this noodle restaurant. That entire episode to me really played out more like a drama. There was good comedy in it, and there was like a little bit of pervy stuff, but more than that, it was just Kentaro doing this really nice stuff and trying to save this family and trying to do like the moral thing. And
yeah, that was good.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of boobs flying around and stuff like that.
That episode in particular had a lot of heart. I was kind of taking notes on some of these, and on that episode, I just wrote like 3 smiley faces, I guess, for when he was getting the shit beat out of him by that thug guy.
Yeah. And then it was awesome because he comes back and he just like kicks that guy's ass, like effortlessly.
Yeah, he does.
He's just
like a single punch.
Yeah. Well, he's like, I could have wasted you earlier or whatever. And that was cool. So he was clearly doing it just because he wanted to take the nice guy route. And that's another thing. That just lends more to his heart of gold.
The show has a lot of heart. It's a really perverted ecchi comedy, but you're not going to find an ecchi comedy that has more heart than this show, in all probability. Not that I watch all that many of these things.
I don't know that I've watched anything that's strictly ecchi other than this. I wouldn't even say that this is strictly ecchi, because the stories are actually pretty good. I kind of doubt that you would find something with as much depth or as much heart elsewhere. And maybe it's just because I haven't seen enough, but for now, this takes the cake.
I would agree with that.
Oh, in episode 5, how did he survive that? When he jumps off the bridge?
Right. First off, how did he get onto the power lines in the first place? So there's a scene where just to set it up, he's riding this bike and he's trying to beat this girl who has a fetish for motorcycles. Maybe fetish is even the wrong word because she is exclusively sexually attracted to motorcycles. So she agrees to have sex with him if he can beat her in a race on his bicycle. So they're racing, and somehow through crazy, unrealistic anime physics, Kentaro is just being thrown all over the place, and he bounces like 50 feet into the air and lands on these power lines, and he's riding on them like a tightrope. And then at some point, he like jumps off this huge ramp and falls 200 feet. And he's like completely fine, and all of this crazy stuff. So how did he survive that? Nonsense anime plot is the reason he survived that.
Okay, I'm not bitter about it. Let's just be clear on that. It's not like I'm like saying, this is a huge plot hole, even though it technically is, but this is just a fun anime, so you gotta let it slide. But, you gotta kind of think, is there anything that you can't do, Kentaro? Is there anything? You can't die?
He can't die. He can't get laid.
Apparently.
Actually, I don't know if he got laid.
He hasn't even tried. All these girls are chasing after him. They are clearly ready to have their way with him.
Yeah, literally at least 2 of them are begging him for sex by the end of the episodes. Begging him.
Yeah. So he could easily get laid if he wants to. That's actually kind of weird, and I guess I wasn't thinking about it that much, but For a guy who is such a huge pervert, doesn't really make sense that he would just ride away and avoid them. But you know what? Whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's just to keep it going and to keep his character fun.
Maybe he did. I actually kind of assumed that Motorcycle Girl eventually did catch up to him and then they did bang, but it's not an important plot point.
Yeah, it's not. The point is, the girls were chasing after him in the end. Actually, that final scene in episode 6, they finish the movie and everybody's happy and Keitaro saves the day. Kentaro. Why do I keep thinking of Love Hina? Because I gotta love Hina.
That was another ecchi show you watched. You said you hadn't seen...
I haven't.
You didn't see Love Hina?
No, I didn't see the anime. I read, like, the first 1 through 4 of the manga, and that was basically where I left off. It was... Well, we can talk about that in a minute. But anyway, Kentaro, he saves the day, and then he escapes. And all these girls are just chasing after him with freaking everything they have. So, yeah, there's no way that he couldn't get laid. Let's say that right now.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But whatever.
It's cool. Whatever. He wins him over. He's a true man.
He truly was a golden boy.
I don't know if that's what they were going for, like a heart of gold, golden boy, but it works out well, and I'm going to stick to that phrase.
I like the toilet fetish joke. That was a reoccurring thing that would always creep me out every single time. Like I said earlier, when the lady spits at him, he's just like this ridiculous pervert who like is sexually gratified by even being treated like a piece of crap like that. So there are many situations in which he's cleaning bathrooms because he's just taking on all of these odd jobs. And so every time he's cleaning a bathroom, he sees a toilet that has been used by a beautiful woman and he's just like rubbing his face against the seat and like licking it and stuff. And it's the creepiest thing. And it just reminds you how much of a low-life piece of scum this guy is supposed to be.
It didn't creep me out. It was just funny. I mean, I guess I can understand.
It was funny, but it was also creeping me out at the same time.
I can understand that, but I don't get creeped out by stuff, I guess. Oh man, the best part was when he was having that fantasy. He's like, oh, just take me, princess, or forgive me, princess, or something. And then she's just like, what are you talking about? Just, listeners, go watch the anime. I thought that the swimming episode, well, that's episode 4, I thought it was kind of anticlimactic, which is weird. You know, he just leaves and, you know, it gets resolved, but it's kind of like, The other episodes do a little better with that.
I agree with that. In that episode, the thing that makes Lady fall in love with him is the fact that he had these new original teaching methods that he was able to teach the children in her clinic. And so that's when she realizes, oh man, this guy knows a lot about swimming education and he can teach me things. But the things he was suggesting were pretty basic, pretty common techniques. Like he was suggesting, let's put these rings under the water and let's have the kids go underwater to pick up the rings. And that way learning how to swim is fun. And it's like, come on, you're supposed to be a gold medalist, Olympic level swimmer, lady, and you've been in this swimming education business for who knows how long. You haven't thought of this? This is enough to make you fall in love with someone? Come on.
Well, I just kind of figured that it was also his heart, his motivated spirit. She was surprised by how much he had improved when they did their little duel or whatever.
Yeah,
that part was also
true.
Actually really good. Oh man, the part where he's swimming up to her and then they have their little pervy moment and then he just pulls out of the water and he like swallows pool water and then he's like crying in happiness. That was like the greatest thing ever. I was just like, the humor in this is really good. Can't say it enough. In episode 2, he's working for this politician doing campaign stuff. And the whole big thing with this episode is that the politician's daughter realizes that he's like a big pervert and she's used to guys being perverts around her. And so she wants to basically break him and show that he is just as much of a loser as they are. But obviously, being him, you know, he doesn't fall for it. But one of the little scenarios where she basically tries to really tease him and stuff like that, she invites him up to her room and she acts really seductive and then she's like, will you teach me? And it's like clearly very implied that she's implying that she wants him to teach her about sex and whatever.
Oh, that's right.
And then, oh, no, she like pulls out a math book after all of that and she's like, aha, teach me these equations.
That was good. I laughed. That was a good joke.
Yeah, that was pretty good irony. Anyway, it's great. All the humor in this, I'm saying that too much. But really, though. I
mean, it's a comedy. What else do you want? It either succeeds at being funny or it doesn't. And it does succeed at being funny. And it also somehow manages to not come across as misogynistic. I'm sure people will disagree, but that's how I feel. Whatever.
If you disagree, you should send us hateful emails.
Yes.
Actually, send them to Kendall only, because I don't want to deal with you. Or maybe
I will respond. I will respond to every email. Bring them on.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay. World, send the emails. Alright, anyway, I guess the final commentary I'll have is that episode 6, while it wasn't quite as funny or even as exciting as the other episodes, in the end, I think it wrapped everything up really quite nicely, sort of ties up the whole series, and it's a good way to go out, and I just thought that it was worth mentioning.
None of these episodes were bad. They were all good. The animation's pretty good in all of them. The last thing I haven't mentioned that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know too much about it, but the soundtrack I thought was effective. The background music was nice. It got you in the mood for whatever mood they were trying to set up in a scene. Oh, yeah. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't actually make a note of that, but I had been thinking about it. The soundtrack is actually pretty good. So there's another sort of plus for you. Okay, so in conclusion, if you are looking for a fun, not very long anime with a lot of heart and happen to be in the mood for some ecchi, I mean, this is an ecchi. It definitely is. There's a lot of nudity in this, but it's good. I would highly recommend it. I guess I will give it, I don't know, I hesitate to give it a star rating. Give it whatever you want. Because I feel like it's really good, but then I feel like if I give it a star rating now, I'm going to look back later and say, maybe that was a little off. I feel differently.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been doing star ratings. Well, the very, very, very first thing we recorded, we did a rating on. But outside of that, we haven't done ratings. So
should we start doing ratings?
You can do whatever you want. I don't feel a need to give a rating for this. I put this on my anime list. I use myanimelist.com to keep track of all the anime I've watched. And I didn't give it a rating there either, although I do that for virtually everything because I didn't feel like I really knew what to give this show, even though I enjoyed it. So take that how you want.
We're in the same boat. Okay, so here's what you need to take away from this, listener. Really enjoyed it. Very funny. Lots of heart. Go watch. Have fun.
For sure.
I really kind of doubt that the womanization, if you can call it that, is going to put many people off. So if that's something you're worried about, even though this is an ecchi, I'd say give it a try.
Agreed.
Have you been doing anything recently that you want to comment on?
Have I been consuming any media lately? Not really. Oh, I did watch the season finale of Legend of Korra. Came out yesterday, season finale for the 3rd season, and it was freaking fantastic. This entire season has been great, and that finale was amazing. And the last scene, heartbreaking.
No
it's
spoilers.
great. You should go ahead. I will spoil whatever I want. This is a spoiler zone show.
Okay, but I haven't watched it.
I don't care. You think I'm sensitive? No.
Kinku.
Yeah, I wouldn't do spoilers for anything that's not in the episode title.
Oh, yada! Oh man, it'd be great if we get, dedicated person to do these reactions. Every time you did something sinister, there'd be, this vulnerable Japanese schoolgirl going, "No, Ken!" In Japanese,
We just pay them minimum wage? No, that'd be dumb.
No, well, we wouldn't pay them at all. Okay, any schoolgirl listener who wants to be a part of part of the show, who knows Japanese and lives in Japan, contact us. Okay, so anything else?
No, Korra's pretty much the only thing I watched, but it was great, and you should definitely watch that as soon as possible.
All right.
I also saw the first 2 episodes of the new season of Gravity Falls, season 2. I think it's been a year, maybe even longer than that, since season 1 ended, and it's pretty good. Gravity Falls is this show on the Disney Channel. It's an animated thing. It's worth watching if you like American cartoons at all. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm done.
It's got an interesting atmosphere. It's this weird sort of supernatural camp type thing.
I didn't know that you'd seen it.
Works out pretty well. Yeah, I've only seen a little bit. I think it's pretty funny. Innocent humor, and for what it is actually, is pretty cute and pretty good. So, as far as I'm concerned, I've been extremely busy. I haven't really been consuming much along the lines of whatever. But I was able to pick up some graphic novels at the thrift store, so I'm pretty happy about that. I got, how back in the olden days they published manga in magazines, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I got 3 volumes of Akira at the thrift store.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they are in really good condition, so I'm pretty happy about that. They're a little bit expensive, but they're cool.
Nice, man.
Yeah. Aside from that, my boss is really cool, but to spare you the semantics, I went with him and his brother and a teacher. I work at a school, and there's some people I regularly associate with. We all went to go and do this sort of nerd party thing after work, where I learned Magic the Gathering, so I guess I'm getting into that for whatever that's worth. And it's actually, I expected it to be kind of, weird and kind of boring, honestly. Kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess. I mean, they're both made by Wizards of the Coast, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I'd also heard that it was similar to Yu-Gi-Oh.
And it actually seemed a bit more deep than I had expected. Although, to be fair, being such a freshman player, I don't really know if that's going to, taper off once I go to a couple more such gatherings. So I guess we'll see. But for now, I'm thinking it's kind of interesting.
It's a very complicated, very deep game. I can confirm that much. That's all I know.
I mean, we were playing group games, so even though I only played 2 games, each game was an hour and a half long because we had 6 people. I guess I probably didn't get into all the minutia of it, but it seemed considerably deeper than Yu-Gi-Oh! How deep, I don't really know, but I guess, judging from what Kendall said, deep enough to give it more of a chance. And I actually do want to. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, that game will consume your life. Can, at least. There's enough stuff, enough content, enough tournaments, enough blah, 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 that you can do as much as you want. So, yeah, if you're going to pick up a hobby, that's neat, I guess.
Yeah, you know what sucks is my boss was telling me about how back in the day he had tons of these cards. He had a couple of these cards called Black Lotus or something. I don't know.
And now they're worth $10,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They're worth thousands of dollars. And back then,
yeah,
he didn't even, he was like, whatever. It's kind of like with the Bitcoin thing. You wish you would have bought onto it. But anyway, it's kind of weird how that stuff appreciates. And not even that. Another thing that he's really into, he's a really old school type video game guy. He's got a lot of arcade cabinets and stuff like that. And he'll tell these interesting stories. It's the weirdest thing. You'll pick up, or rather he will pick up some arcade cabinet. And all of these are basically from 20 years ago or even earlier because that was the day of the arcade. And he'll pick it up for $100. And then a few years later, for some reason on the internet, there'll be this rage for this one thing and the price will go up to $3,000 or $4,000 for it.
Huh.
So it's kind of interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You talking about getting the Akira stuff at the thrift shop reminded me that a few weeks ago, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was at a thrift store and I saw a VHS copy of Demon City Shinjuku for $1 and I bought it.
Oh, cool. Whenever I sort of look through thrift stores, I hardly ever find anything good. I guess that's standard fare. Well, people tell me that thrift stores in other cities are good, but I guess here in Mobile, Alabama, for whatever reason, horrible boringness just descends onto everything and makes everything very mundane. But I kind of feel compelled to buy a bunch of obscure videotapes that are not going to be on the internet and just start ripping them. Even if I don't have any attachment to them whatsoever, even if I don't care, even if it's just some obscure movie that I have never heard about and I'm not even interested in, I almost feel compelled to buy them just to rip them and put them on the internet so that they won't be lost to history.
If you can find them. I don't know where you're going to find tapes that are obscure in that way, but sure, go for it.
I mean, it kind of seems it seems like there's a lot of cheesy stuff, a lot of stuff that I can't recognize that you just sort of see on the shelves and you're I had no idea. It's weird to think that at some point there were hundreds, maybe even thousands of people working on this thing, and now it's just sitting forgotten on a shelf somewhere. It'll probably be lost to history, you know what I mean?
I don't think that's weird to think about, but I do understand what you're saying, yeah.
Alright, well, anyway, that ties into the discussion, so there you have it. That's what you wanted, listeners. That's why you listen to this, to hear me ramble, and I'm going to give you what you want.
Ramble about politics.
Oh my god, I hate politics. By how no one listens to anyone and nothing constructive ever gets talked about. Ever.
Yeah, people are really dumb.
I
include myself in those people. I'm also dumb, but I feel as though other people don't understand how dumb they are. Well, and I feel like I at least know that I'm dumb.
That's kind of the benefit of being a skeptic. That's one of is that you have to understand your own shortfalls and how people deceive themselves, and you have to understand, metacognition. You have to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of try to be unbiased. I mean, there's only so far that anyone can go. Everybody's going to be biased, but it's an effort that a lot of people don't seem to make, at least from my perspective. I think that's one of the things that's really great about skepticism.
Socrates thought he was the smartest person because he was the only person who knew that he didn't know anything. And by knowing that he didn't know anything, he knew more than everyone else. And that's why he was such an asshole to everyone.
When he gets sentenced and the court doesn't want to send him to death, then he's like, oh, well, if I'm not going to be killed, then my alternative is you have to throw me a party. And they didn't want to do that because that's just silly. He could have picked anything else.
That was really good. Socrates, we were willing to do anything other than throw you a party. Anything.
And he's just stubborn about it. I'm like, oh my god. Socrates is a pretty cool guy as far as I'm concerned. And also, politics sucks.
Okay. So I guess we're done here.
I guess we are done here.
See you later, guys.
See you later.